Thanks for the confirmation. Hi everyone, I'm Pat and I will be your chair for this round. Pronouns are here day, but I would gladly appreciate it if debaters would just generally use gender neutral terms or if you just address the panel as a whole. Second, I would like my panelists to introduce themselves following the name order in the Tabicat.
Hey everyone, Alex, he, they, good luck.
Hi, I'm Aniket, he, him. Thank you. Good luck.
Hey, I'm Chantel. She, her pronouns, please, but again, you'll just address us as a panel, so good luck on the debate.
Hi everyone, I'm Rans. Congratulations on making it this far and good luck as well to both teams.
Wonderful. Lastly, before the debate starts, let's all promote a more inclusive and respectful environment. That means be mindful of the words we'll use. Please recognize and respect people's preferred gender pronouns, preferred POIs, and please don't badger. Do we have any orcom here, or can probably one of the panelists time the round if it's possible? All right. I think it's probably better if debaters would just time themselves. I would also have my personal timer. So it's really hard to switch to Zoom then switch to my docs. But if in any case that you guys reach the time limit, then I'll probably immediately put it in the chat box. So yep. Thanks everyone. So I think we're prepared now to debate. So debating on the motion, this House regrets that the substantial rise in charitable donations through cryptocurrency, e.g. individuals making charitable donations through cryptocurrency, like Vitalik Buterin and some bank fried becoming major philanthropists. Calling on the Prime Minister to start a debate. Here.
Wait, is it okay we don't turn on cameras though? Because our Wi-Fi, I think, is kind of bad. Okay, I assume that's a yes. Cool. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. A popular saying goes, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you give a man cryptocurrency, nothing happens because crypto is too volatile, unaccountable, and hurts the efficacy of charities. That is our stance on prop. We'll talk about 4 things in the speech. Firstly, what we think this debate is about, then 3 arguments. 1 about how this enables bad actors to receive donations, 2 about why crypto is volatile and cannot be used in charitable donations, and 3 about how this lessens the efficacy of donations because it gives donors too much control over how their money is used. Firstly, what is this debate about? So we think this is about regretting the rise of cryptocurrency apps that allow you to donate to charities, huge sums of crypto donated by philanthropists and crypto enthusiasts, the growing reliance of smaller charities on cryptocurrency, and the trend towards branding yourself as crypto-friendly, like many charities like WWF have done. We think the comparative is that people continue to donate through legitimate institutions, which is basically what happened before cryptocurrency rose. Banks with direct cash transfers, charities, and the like. We're going to prove that a trade-off exists and that many people who currently donate with crypto would probably donate through those industries on the comparative. So keep an eye on that in the analysis. 3 arguments then. 1, we enable bad actors to receive donations. The premise of the argument is this. Crypto donations are not regulated by traditional government or economic institutions. That enables poor actors to receive funding. Why do we think cryptocurrency has very little accountability? Reason number 1, there are no centralized checks and balances on trades. Sorry. The way in which cryptocurrency works is decentralized in nature. Anyone can make any payment to any other account with completely no middleman. Unlike with governments, this means that it is impossible to restrict donations for things like illegitimate institutions. So for example, extremist groups that people want to donate to, or other types of things which we think governments tend to not want to support. But secondly, it is impossible to hold people accountable because you don't know who the owner of a specific account is. That is because, by the nature of cryptocurrency, people trade with account keys, not their real bank details. So even though you can see the passage of funds between users, because that is all public information on the blockchain, you don't actually know who these users are. This means that there's very little accountability for organizations and powerful people who do make donations. So for example, right-wing politicians who donate to violent ultranationalist groups and want to keep those things hidden. Under our side of the house, we suggest that there's more accountability to the point at which governments can regulate, for example, which charities are legitimate, which charities are illegitimate. That better increases the advocacy of those charities, but it also enables people, for example, to donate, not donate to things which we think are actively harmful. Opposition's response to this argument will probably be something along the lines of, there are good institutions that governments ban, like WikiLeaks, that you can donate to through cryptocurrency. I'm going to preempt this response by explaining why that is a minority of cases. Number one, because financial institutions have incentives to be relatively liberal with the charities they allow people to donate to. They claim profits on charitable donations that come through direct bank transfers. That is a reason why they do not overzealously ban unless these things are extremely unpopular, like the examples that we talk about. But second, it is unpopular for the government to ban organizations that critique states. So we think citizens have a broad desire to seek the truth, tend to distrust the government and powerful companies, and that is a reason for why there's backlash if the government restricts payments to organizations like WikiLeaks that end up exposing that corruption. So those are a minority of cases. We suggest in the majority of cases, it is going to be more difficult under our side of the house to donate to harmful actors. We think that these actors receive less donations. That is a good thing. Right-wing paramilitary organizations are less able to finance active acts of violence or intimidation against minorities. The Russian military fund gets less international funding from people in the West to the point at which the government is able to ban those things. It doesn't exist under their side. Second argument on volatility. The premise here is this. We think cryptocurrency is a poor store of value. Therefore, giving in cryptocurrency charitable donations is harmful, especially since we're going to prove a trade-off with donations in conventional currencies. Firstly, why is cryptocurrency so volatile? The first reason is because crypto is a relatively new phenomenon, and that is why it is volatile. Unlike regular currencies that are managed by central banks like the Fed, tend to be stable because they have rational incentives to engage in good monetary policy, crypto value fluctuates greatly with speculation of the market by virtue of how it works. Reason number two, even if currency value does not fluctuate significantly, gas fees do fluctuate. So gas fees are like the transaction fees that you have to pay when you buy or sell cryptocurrency that are determined by, the rate of mining in the market, but also like the country in which you live in. We think that this means this fluctuation means that these things can often vary thousands of dollars in mere hours. And that is a reason for why, even if opposition says you can convert your crypto into spendable currency, the exorbitant gas fees end up decreasing the efficacy of that. The third reason why crypto is volatile is just like a specific reason on philanthropy. So crypto philanthropists often use this as a way to boost their own currencies. So like big philanthropists will create their own crypto coin, like they'll name it like something like, I don't know, like help people coin. And then they'll make donations using that currency to generate popular support and drive up demand for those coins. That is a reason for why many of these donations are not in Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are relatively, well, not really stable, but are comparatively stable, but rather in volatile, newly created currencies. The impact of volatility is twofold. One, it means a donation today can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars less the next day. Charities lose significant amounts of money quickly in a way that would never happen with conventional currency because of big fluctuations that exist in the market. This might exist day by day, but it can also exist year by year. So for example, if this year the Bitcoin value is lower, that is the point at which you just get less revenue to actually spend on doing good things for people. But the second reason why volatility is bad is because it is harder to predict charitable revenues. So it is hard for charities to do long-term planning to the point at which your revenue can drastically vary from day to day, from week to week. That makes it harder for you actually to get out these good things for people on the ground. The last thing to prove here is, why will the subset of people under our side of the house still donate if there is no crypto payments? We think there are still strong reasons to donate under either side of the house. Philanthropists will always be under public pressure to use their massive wealth, but also people in general donate to assuage their guilt. Like they see pain and suffering in the world. They want to feel like they're being empathetic to that suffering. Lots of donations occur after huge international humanitarian crises. So there are very strong desires among people to engage with that donation. What this suggests is that people will still donate under our will. And it's worth noting, crypto, for the vast majority of people, is ultimately a gimmick. Because if you didn't care about charity and you only cared about donating in crypto, you wouldn't donate to begin with. So even though people would donate anyways, the fact that under their world, they can support their favorite currencies in the process or take advantage of new technology is a reason for why they use crypto donations instead of donations that we think are less volatile under our side. So the takeaway is, even if we lose some donations, the donations they get under their side of the house are less effective because currency is volatile. But also, the vast majority of people still donate under our side using traditional currencies, which we think are more stable. Last argument on why this lessens the efficacy of donations. The premise here is this. Cryptocurrency donations uniquely give donors too much control over the way that money is spent. That makes charities less effective. The first thing to point out here is that charities often cannot opt out of cryptocurrency if it is bad for them. That is because lots of other charities are doing it, so there's strong pressures on individual charities to adopt crypto donations models as well. Let's talk about the actual argument then, which is this. The appeal of cryptocurrency is that you have control over the way your money is spent. In the status quo, many charities just can't give that to you because it is logistically difficult to provide the details and track every single dollar, obviously because you can't follow these physical shipments around. That is a reason why conditionality is not symmetric. But under their side, cryptocurrency smart contracts, which are basically like they're exactly what they sound like. They're like digital contracts, make it very easy to track the way your money is spent on the blockchain. And that gives people the ability to create conditions on their money. So for example, they can say, only if 90% of this money is spent on food can you access that money, or whoever uses this money can spend it on education. The problem is obviously that people are not experts on the issue, cannot decide well how to allocate funding. They don't understand the intricacies on the ground, and that leads to charities being less effective when these people would comparatively donate with no conditions in the status quo, because that is difficult. Under our side of the house, we are proud to support stability and efficacy of charities. Proud to stand up problem.
Thank you for that speech, Prime Minister Minako, Leader of the Opposition. Hear you.
Hi, am I audible and visible?
Yep, you are.
Okay, I'll take my POIs verbally, please. And just give me a second. Okay, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Panel, it's abhorrent. We regret the sheer benefits we've seen from donations through cryptocurrency. I'm going to do two things in this speech. First, I'm going to talk about how we get more donations. Then I'm going to talk about why cryptocurrency is a uniquely good form of currency. And then lastly, I'm also going to talk about the unique mechanisms on accountability, which is a direct response to their point on accountability. Before that, then, notice that this debate isn't about regretting crypto or anything that about crypto itself. It's about what's been done with crypto, and we cannot regret the sheer impact that it's had on these people that desperately need it. What is a likely counterfactual that we see? We see that the counterfactual is likely to be cash and credit through banks from like billionaires, for instance, or resources. This is something that the proposition has to deal with. These are donations that come in non-monetary forms like health aid and experts. Ultimately, we're going to see why that's really bad through those arguments. Notice that these crypto donations have historically gone into established NGOs who in turn use that money to meet the needs of a given place. So first argument then on how we get better donations. First thing to say is that panel, proposition cannot undersell the sheer impact of philanthropists, okay? In our world, entrepreneurs donate more often at higher prices. We cannot regret the sheer impact of billionaires giving billions of dollars to NGOs to get hype for their crypto and get a PR facelift. Why is this so good? This means that these philanthropists had a unique incentive to give more money more often for better results. Why are we okay with this then? Because the comparative is really, really bad. The comparative is some entrepreneur donating money to WWF and UNICEF, things that are inherently good, but on a macro scale are really bad. This is because fans and supporters, unfortunately, find these donations stale and overdone. So the incentive of these entrepreneurs to donate becomes less often and less valuable. Instead of building a lot of hype just by virtue of them using crypto, meaning better publicity for them, what we see, they were like more incentive for them to donate more often at higher prices. Instead, what we see is like them not donating in the first place because it's not as exciting and they don't get as good a brand facelift. Second thing to say under this then is panel. Investor bros tend to follow along with the current crypto hype. This is really important. So it's likely that these investor bros have invested in the footsteps of these billionaires, and in that way, increase the number of investors in a given cryptocurrency, increasing its value, in fact, skyrocketing its value. Notice that by virtue of crypto being trendy, it has meant that more people donated in the name of philanthropy to be like their idols, pouring a lot of money into NGOs. And also notice that this exponential hype hasn't just happened between supporters, it's happened like between collaborations between massive brands and entrepreneurs that have supported this, and their supporters have been affected too. I'll take you in a moment. The problem notices that they lose these people. They lose this massive hype. Okay, what they notice, panel, that you should measure this point that we give you, this argument, independently. Their point that they'd happily trade off less donations is contingent on the point they've proved on volatility. So that is how we get a lot more money by a lot more avenues that are super necessary to NGOs and have a massive impact that way. I'll take a POI.
Even if this is true, this often leads to massive rug pulls and scams a week down the line because of the volatility argument we gave you. What that means is cryptocurrency isn't actually an effective donation. It doesn't look like millions
Thank
of
you.
dollars. It looks like 10.
Okay. I'm going to deal with that stability thing later. So yeah, just wait for that. Last thing I want to say before I end this argument and move on to that response to the POI is that prop has to engage in the way that billionaires often donate. They often donate in ways where they donate supplies and resources and advertise the value of these donations. This is a direct response to like efficacy or whatever. We should say that we would say that we take this debate on the fact that we believe that NGOs are a lot more capable of distributing monetary donations equitably and necessarily since they engage with people on the ground. They know the context of the place. Compare this to resource-based donations like food or medical equipment. Billionaires tend to give money in this way to stand out amongst the crowd and cost NGOs money they desperately needed by focusing on resources that weren't fully necessary. NGOs need to prioritize, and I don't think professional strategists in NGOs are going to fall to gimmicks that other NGOs are using this, so you should use cryptocurrency too if they really want to stop using crypto. But we think that even if they are pressured into using crypto, we're fine with it because of all the benefits we talked about. Panel, in this debate, the side that gains the most amount of donations wins, because only through donations you can help people and the most amount of people. So any harms that come secondary to that, we at least have more donations on our side, and that gets me to my second argument, because panel knows that even if we have some imperfection, we that is not enough to weigh this debate to proposition. So second argument then on crypto being a uniquely good form of currency. Okay, with propositions tangent on stability will be dealt with by simply understanding how crypto operates, okay? Crypto is stabilized by the following. The more involvement and more engagement it gets, the higher in value it becomes. It's that simple. So what does this mean in the debate? This means that with more donations and engagement in crypto from the receivers, the higher in value the donation becomes. This means that their material on the crypto instability doesn't stand in this debate, since crypto has had exponentially increased in hype, along with the structural reasons we gave you already. We then have effectively neutralized this, but I'll still engage by explaining how we simply cannot regret the sheer impact crypto money has had on states that have undergone political turmoil and the people that have endured chaos. How has this happened? Panel, crypto has helped countries that really need these donations, like Lebanon, talk about inflation, okay? Who reached an inflation rate of over 150%, and although the official exchange rate between the dollar and the lira remains at 1 to 1,500 lira, the street rate has reached 10 times that. This is where crypto comes in. This is where crypto has uniquely saved people and families and lives. This situation where a donation of say $1 million would have been 10 times less that in value, meaning that it would have been valued at $100,000. We save those people. Cryptocurrency uniquely solves this problem by being able to transfer that $1 million worth of Bitcoin, for instance, to the Lebanese Red Cross, and then they're able to sell it and receive the money through a third party like PayPal. This removes the risk of the value going down because of the inflation then. So that is how we win then. Why is it that NGOs, though, have not lost money through crypto then? This is us dealing with our worst case in this panel. It's super clear. Billionaires give to NGOs. NGOs receive them immediately. Strategists in NGOs aren't dumb. They sell it instantly because NGOs fundamentally are built on stability and minimizing risk because of the scale of impacts that they can do. So we don't think that it's likely that an instantaneous transaction has ever resulted in a loss. This is also true because of the same hype that ensues that we talked about earlier. NGOs are unlikely to lose money. But even if they did, we would posit that this impact has been massively, tiny, marginal, especially in areas of high inflation. However, even outside of those areas, even if the crypto is completely unusable, we say, look at the comparative. In proposition, they don't even have that donation in the first place. They didn't get the philanthropists to engage in charity because they don't have meaningful direct benefits on their side. So we would posit that at least in our world, the possibility of that donation happening in the first place is actually possible. Lastly, then, a quick note on accountability, and this deals with their first argument. First, I don't think that we need to deal with extremist groups in this debate. Obviously, people who donate are going to find ways to donate regardless, shell corps and offshore accounts exist. But I'm really disappointed with prop swirling. Donating to a paramilitary isn't a charitable donation. Given that, we think that it's really important to ensure the money gets to the people who need it. So on our side, we have unique accountability mechanisms. They've happily explained to us how blockchain works thus far, but what they don't realize is that it's a lot easier to hold people accountable via crypto because it's a new thing and because everybody can see it. it. This is why it's been so easy to call out scams, because crypto is a new thing, as opposed to like all these offshore accounts or all these like banks and weird abstract things that people necessarily tend not to understand. Panel, that is why we take this debate. We take down their entire case and have unique benefits. Panel, a crypto donation is our salvation.
Thank you for that speech, Leader of the Opposition. We now call on Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
I'll take POIs in chat. Perhaps it is true in opposition's world that one or two more bright-eyed entrepreneurs want to do things like give money to charity. But behind the bright eyes of these entrepreneurs lies a bed of scams, rug pulls, and often very, very inflationary currencies that don't actually help out these charities, but actively hamper their capacity to act. We say that we reject that premise. We say it's probably better to donate through things like conventional means. It is on that basis that we propose. I want to ask two questions in my speech. Number one, whether or not there's more or less people donating within this debate. Number two, on the efficacy for charities to act. Note the second clash, probably more important than the first. Number one, on whether or not more or less people donate within the context of this debate. The main push out of opposition is that entrepreneurs on their side are curbed from donating on our side because they no longer have incentives to donate because they don't get brand and facelifts. Our response here is twofold. First, I would posit that if the claim here is that entrepreneurs get a massive glorification and boost to their status when they donate to things like cryptocurrency, it is deeply unclear why that same boost doesn't happen if they donate through conventional means. So if ulterior motives exist on both sides of the house to donate because it helps boost your PR, presumably you do that on either side of the house. Why then was it true that entrepreneurs relied on cryptocurrency to donate? Firstly, because it hyped up their own currency. But the consequence of this was not their currency becomes massively valuable and crypto, like charities are able to use this properly, but rather they're able to scam people effectively. And the analysis that Riley gave you here was missed out by opposition. Specifically, hyping up your coin means that in the short term, the value of that coin is highly inflated. When the founder of Ethereum donates through Shiba Inu coin to Indian charities, many people then invested in Shiba Inu coin. But at its peak, because the vast majority of the coin in circulation was held by these entrepreneurs, they pulled out and made profits while the value of this coin plummeted. They might try to respond to this in second by saying, well, you can get regulations and there's often backlash, but it's worth noting that it's very hard to see who you can target this backlash to, and the very nature of cryptocurrency means no regulation, but also on their side, they glorify the premise of donating within the first place. The outcomes of this donation might be worse on their side, so they have to bite the harm that entrepreneurs might donate more on their side, but the consequence of this donation is massive amounts of scams being easily levied. And the empirical analysis here is that we can probably name a lot more scam tokens that have been reliant on charities than they can name legitimately good and benevolent tokens. So for instance, the Save the Kids token, that was a massive scam that happened that ended up screwing over the lives of a lot of individuals and ended up tarnishing the name of the Save the Kids charity, but also like the Shiba Inu token that I just mentioned and so on. The weighing here then was simple. Perhaps you get slightly more people on their side donating, but the reason they donate on their side is because they want to scam individuals. The same structural incentives to donate for things like PR exist on our side, so those way-offs are equivalent. The second reason was then, well, people donate more on our side because investor bros are inspired. I think that probably folds into my first response about how this often leads to massive inflationary scams. It's probably unlikely that investor bros applying is the delta within this debate. The second thing they then say is that, well, on our side, we must defend a world where supplies and resources are donated by billionaires. Like, really? Like, is it easier for Bill Gates to donate medical supplies, or is it easier for him to donate direct money? Like, Bill Gates owns stocks. Bill Gates owns money. He doesn't own medical equipment. People that donate medical equipment on either side of the house because those are often medical CEOs, medical companies, and so on. They never prove why this is the specific threshold that we have to defend on our side. But even if that's true, I question whether this actually leads to worse efficacy, because presumably the types of people that Bill Gates donates to, like medical equipment, wouldn't be a charity that doesn't rely on medical equipment at all. It's probably a charity that is in desperate need of this medical equipment within the first place. That's a very unclear and unnuanced claim that prop makes. Question 2, on whether or not there is efficacy that comes as a consequence of this. Before I do this, take the POI.
Please engage with someone other than Bill Gates. What about the people, the same investors that you categorize? Why won't they like do things other than like money, but also, you know, engage with resources?
Because money is the easiest thing to donate, right? Like if I own assets, my assets are often cash, I donate cash. If I own medical equipment, I donate medical equipment on both sides of the house because that's an asset that's more proximate to me in the first place. You never prove why the same people that donate cryptocurrency on your side are the people that donate medical equipment on our side. That's a false claim, false characterization. Number 2, on whether or not cryptocurrency is a good thing to donate. Their claim over here was that cryptocurrency has been really good for countries like Lebanon, who have experienced hyperinflation as a consequence of things like war or natural disasters that have happened in the industry. I have a couple of observations to make over here. First, I would note cryptocurrency doesn't solve for this, but actively makes it more inefficient. Why? Because you cannot buy things like medical relief or aid using cryptocurrency. Perhaps it is easier to donate on their side through things like cryptocurrency. But when I give one Bitcoin to a place like India, that Bitcoin can't immediately be then used to buy things directly. Rather, it has to be converted into the currency of that place in the first place. So it has to be converted to, so for instance, to Indian rupees or like whatever the Lebanese currency is. The consequence of that claim is massive. It doesn't just look like trading with PayPal. It looks like trading in a market where there already is hyperinflation. How did we edge out on their claim then in the margins? First, because as Raleigh pointed out, there's often massive gas prices that are associated with the place that you live. And it's worth noting that this is a very significant thing because the demand for cryptocurrency in developing countries where charities are the often most important, countries like India or Congo, is very low. And that is a reason for why trading cryptocurrency in these areas is often very hard. So liquidating your assets into things like Indian rupees directly is pretty hard on their side of the house. What that means is that there's often high prices in trading these currencies in the first place. You often have to pay massive transactional fees that you can't skirt on their side of the house because there's no regulation that allows you to get like tax levies on their side. The consequence of this was simple. On their side, cryptocurrency is harder to liquidate, which means on their own claim about liquidation, we win out on the margin. Our second part of this claim was on volatility. And note, this was a very important claim that they gave very little response to. It is worth observing that cryptocurrencies often come with massive uncertainty. So it is deeply unclear to me why one Bitcoin right now is going to be valuable to the same extent that it might be in the next week or next month. The reason we gave you this was simple. Bitcoin is deregulated. Cryptocurrencies by nature are deregulated. And what that means is you can never do things like impose monetary or fiscal policy to make sure that their price remains stable. Their response here was, well, surely guys, charities aren't stupid and they will like regulate, like they will liquidate their assets immediately. That's an absurd claim to make because it's very hard to liquidate assets. That's what we proved at the very beginning of my speech. So what's more likely and what charities often do right now is they hold off on these assets because it's deeply unclear whether or not they're going to be able to spend them effectively. The impacts of this were massive. When the average Joe donates $5 through Bitcoin, that Bitcoin now has a massive transactional fee that's placed on it, but also the capacity for the charity to spend that $5 is way, way harder on their side of the house because there's massive uncertainty associated with the value of that currency at the time. Why was this better on our side? We gave you 3 reasons. First, people still donate on our side because of moral absolution or whatever, but the difference then was that there's less efficacy in terms of you pay less transactional fees. Second, we have better regulation for charities to skirt past things like foreign exchange fees. So the fact that perhaps someone donates in USD and into Indian rupees, the demand for these currencies is broadly greater on our side of the house. Finally, we allow for charities to have better long-term planning on our side because we allow charities to make sure they can hold onto a stable currency that at worst might face things like recession, very marginal claim. We weigh out on the fact that charities improve on our side of the house. They can do things better, never been prouder to propose.
Thank you for that speech, Deputy Prime Minister. We now call on Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Here.
Am I audible and visible?
Yep, you are.
Okay. I'll be taking my POIs through the verbally. And I'll be starting, Yeah, okay. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, we don't understand why Bill Gates wouldn't donate in our world. This is a This House Regrets motion. Seeing the events that happened in the past, we see that we get huge donations in cryptocurrency from people like Elon Musk that became rich because of the cryptocurrency itself, and we also see other people giving donations like in cash or in other like whatever ways they want to give. So Bill Gates donates in our world. We have both of those donations. In our world is in their world is the world that reduces the amount of donations that they get at the end of the day, and we think that that is the most important thing in this debate. So three issues in this debate. Firstly, on how we get more donations. Secondly, on why cryptocurrency is uniquely good, and then lastly on accountability and how we have better accountability mechanisms that don't exist on their side of the house. So firstly, on how we get more donations, we think in their counterfactual, they get little to no donations at all, because most of the donors are crypto billionaires. These are people like the person that became rich because they co-founded Ethereum. Like this is one of the most major donors, like cryptocurrency donors. They will never donate in dollars. Those billionaires, they will never donate in dollars in their counterfactual, because firstly, they wouldn't be even rich because cryptocurrency they wouldn't be even rich. But even if they were, these people don't want these people like live off the idea of using mainstream they don't want to use mainstream currencies, but instead they want to use cryptocurrency to give legitimacy to the currencies that they invented at the end of the day by making large donations through those currencies. So what does this mean? This means that even if proposition was right that cryptocurrency was unstable and some of the donations were not so effective, we would easily win this debate, because they basically get no donations compared to the millions in our world later. So what we told you in our world, we tell you that the reasons that we get those billionaires to donate in the first place, because we revive their brand, because they get the hype. They tell us that on their side of the house they get the hype as well, but we tell you that this mechanism is exclusive to our side. Why? Because the billionaires we're talking about, like Elon Musk or like the people that invented the cryptocurrencies in the first place, their whole brand is built on the cryptocurrency. Therefore, they care about the hype that gets them to donate any cryptocurrency, because they give legitimacy to their own currency. They give legitimacy to the field that they work in and the industry that they work in the first place. On their side of the house, they can't have that mechanism. That's an exclusive mechanism to our side of the house. Secondly, we tell you that we even get an increased value in those cryptocurrency because of it being trendy, because of everyone using it. Additionally, we tell you that those people won't be rich in the first place if not for cryptocurrency, and therefore they won't get those donations under their side of the house, which they concede that on our side of the house we will get more donations. So what is their mechanism of getting more donations? Is that individuals will donate because they have moral obligations. We tell you that this is nothing in comparison to the billions and billions and billions amount of money that we got thanks to the billionaires that care so much about cryptocurrency and giving legitimacy to the cryptocurrency. So like to conclude this issue, we tell you that on our side is the only side that gets the most amount of money, and they're the only harm and they concede that. However, the only harm they try to push on us is like scams and like donating to extremists, which we will deal with, and which is at best mitigatory. They never get the same amount of money we get on our side of the house. This means that we get to help the most amount of people. Before moving to my next issue, I'll take a point.
The Save the Kids charity was tarnished when it took a cryptocurrency donation, but that cryptocurrency donation hyped up more donations, but then there was a rug pull. So it actually harms these capacity for these charities to act, which is the claim that I gave you. You must respond with it.
Thank you. We'll deal with this in under accountability about those those established NGOs not actually knowing what they're doing, which we think is very laughable. But moving to my second issue now on how cryptocurrencies are actually uniquely good. We tell you in places where people desperately need money, like hyperinflation exists in those places, like Lebanon, for example. And we tell you that the only way that money can get to them in an unimpacted way is basically through cryptocurrency. And we think that because that happens through a transfer that does not lose the value of the money throughout it. And we think that this could happen through NGOs. They concede to this, and they're only the response to this is a mitigatory response again. But they can by telling us that there's like huge gas fees or whatever they want to call them. We tell you that at best, this is symmetrical. Why? Because on your side of the house, how are you going to get donations into that place? You're moving them from like banks of those individual donors you have, and then to the like bank of the charity, and then to another bank that is like international, and then from that international bank to another national bank in Lebanon, for example, and then to the local bank of the charities that work within Lebanon. How many times did you pay transitional fees in that huge cycle? Many times. On our side of the house, we think that those gas fees at least happen once. So at best, your claim is symmetrical, and we tell you on your side of the house, it's even much more expensive because you do it many times until you get it to the person that you want to get it at the end of the day. And this means that, which I'll explain in accountability, you lose a lot of money through the way because you have no accountability mechanism to see how much, to see who got the money at the end of the day. Secondly, we tell you under how this is uniquely good is that people like NGOs, when they get it, they can sell it immediately, which shows benefits and no harms on our side of the house, and hugely minimizes all the harms on how this fluctuates. But even if it fluctuates, we tell you two things. Firstly, that fluctuations are normal, and like normal currencies, like traditional currencies, fluctuate as well, and they have to deal with that harm on their side of the house.
Why?
Many people were very rich, but some economy disaster happened to their country and they stopped being rich because of that. So fluctuations is a normal thing, and we think that that is symmetrical at best. However, on our side of the house, we tell you that fluctuations actually in a cryptocurrency allows people to reinvest in cryptocurrency and to buy more cryptocurrency. This means that fluctuations that happen on our side of the house leads to an overall rise at the end of the day, because it allows for more people to be involved with the cryptocurrency in the first place. Last thing they tell us is that you can't do long-term planning under our side of the house. We tell you that yes, you can do long-term planning, because one, we secure the amount of money that gets given to you in the first place, and that is a huge amount of money. But secondly, we think that you can build a loyalty with the billionaire that you are giving, because they constantly want to be center of attention. Therefore you can build a loyalty with them. On your side of the house, the money does not even exist, so you can't even talk about long-term planning that happens on your side of the house. Lastly, on accountability. On accountability, they tell us like two very strange things. The first thing is that bad actors will receive donations. That was like a really laughable argument that they started their case with, because we tell you that one, like donations to like the right wing or whatever parliament people you're talking about are not charitable donations. Those are like normal things that will always happen, because that is not charity, that is like funding a campaign. Secondly, we tell you that on your side, which you never engage with, we tell you from first that on your side, people will always find a way to fund like whatever terrorist group they want to fund, either by giving them in cash or by doing like some bank accounts in niche countries where like the law is not that strong enough. So at the end of the day, that harm exists on your side as well. You have to deal with that, and that's not like very relevant to the debate. But secondly, they tell us that they need too much control. We tell you that if these people are as controlling as proposition characterize them, then they wouldn't even donate on their side, because they lose the control that they get at the end of the day. However, on our side of the house, we prove to you accountability, because you can see the money got from who to who, and on their side of the house, people can get away with more scams. People can get away with saying that they help X amount of people when they don't really, and the like money goes to organizers and the NGO or whatever people that do that type of corruption at the end of the day. Panel, a crypto donation is our salvation. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. We will now call on Government Whip. You're here.
The opposition's claims in today's round were simple. We argued that regulations on who could and could not receive aid protected against money piling up in the wrong hands. Cryptocurrency allows donors to skirt national restrictions on charity, and in those instances, we prefer no aid to crypto aid. But in cases where donors are providing aid to valuable causes, we argue that they should donate via standard currencies instead, and worthwhile charities will become more robust as a result. Instead of being tethered to a fluctuating currency, we said that charities require stability to continue providing services to the homeless, to the vulnerable. So in both of those instances, we said that cryptocurrency and charity specifically had grown too large. It's on that basis we're very proud to propose. In this speech, I want to ask two questions. First, who receives these charitable donations that are provided via cryptocurrency? Second, which form of donation is more effective considering the volatility of the currency itself? First, on the recipients of donations, Our main offense here was that national regulations on what charities could receive aid are reasonable and are generally beneficial, and when those are skirted by crypto donors, the wrong charities receive that aid. Notably, crypto donors oftentimes avoid these regulations and have poor incentives themselves to donate to the wrong recipients for two reasons that were not meaningfully dealt with by their side. First, most crypto entrepreneurs who hold large amounts of currency fundamentally are incentivized to destabilize the traditional currency. This increases demand for Bitcoin and causes the value to spike, and therefore these are individuals who have no incentive to increase the security of countries, the physical life of individuals living there. But second, oftentimes the largest buyers are Western and international actors, not national actors who are domestic to the issues themselves, to the natural disasters that happen, for example. So oftentimes they're also actors who are not interested personally in the welfare of the recipient country of that charity. They don't care if they're wreaking havoc across the world, supporting ultra-nationalist groups, as we told you in first. The response we heard from their side was very feeble. They say in first and second that there's still underground channels to reach charities that were not approved by the government and these malicious actors. But I would note that most individuals do not know about these underground channels. They're obscure by nature. Most people don't want to risk illegal actions to give small sums of donations that they can afford. Comparatively, they support in huge numbers through cryptocurrency these groups and organizations that oftentimes have poor agendas. We said that support would now exclusively go towards government-approved charities that were disproportionately good for two reasons that we gave, never meaningfully engaged with either. That first, most governments want to fulfill the basic living standards of a populace. Every dollar that comes through aid is a dollar that no longer needs to be provided by the government itself. That gives the government a freer hand. So after natural disasters, rapid reconstruction is critical to ensure investors wouldn't leave the country and save market confidence. That is why you're unlikely to get regulations on charities that are actually helpful in providing those gaps in welfare. But second, banning donations to worthwhile cause, no thanks, oftentimes rallies up anti-government sentiments even further. So it might be favorable for the Kurdish government to allow certain Kurdish charities that provide basic services like food and water and pose very little threat to the government than it is for them to risk huge uprisings in Kurdish areas. So what this meant was that the traditional currency would oftentimes benefit worthy cause, but financial support for harmful causes would increase under their side. In these instances, we prefer no charity to any form of crypto charity. Second question, and more importantly, which form of donation is actually more effective considering the volatility of the currency that exists? So they say, very oddly and first, that without cryptocurrency donations, people will likely donate large amounts of medical equipment, things that are not provided in currencies and therefore don't offer spending liberty. I would note 4 responses. First, no thanks. The person who wants to donate a ventilator would probably not convert to donating through cryptocurrency under their side of a house. The closest substitute is probably still standard currencies. The individuals who donated via cryptocurrencies would probably just convert that towards standard currencies and be able to donate. Or in cases where conversion is not possible, because they live in a place where that cannot be liquidated immediately, presumably they still hold some sums of cash on either side of this house, they could still donate that regardless. It's a question as to why these people would suddenly turn towards buying ventilators and donating those instead, and why that would be the likely comparative. Second, as we noted in our second speech, average individuals are very unlikely to buy ventilators, but that requires more attention and effort on their part. That they have instant emotional reactions that individuals have after seeing a charity campaign or starving children. That is why oftentimes they're not going to go through long and extensive processes of buying medical equipment on their own, but instead make $5 donations that are very quick and through the tap of a button. Third, these donations, we said, were still useful. So the reason why people might go out of their way to donate masks or medical equipment is because they don't trust the charities themselves to be able to facilitate those sorts of purchases. That oftentimes there's some level of corruption within charities, and therefore donating these resources directly is more effective. In those instances where charities did need and require this sort of medical equipment, presumably that would still be beneficial for the charity itself and individuals who do receive it. For the final claim, I'll take you in a second, is that spending liberty increases on our side. So this is a pretty absurd claim. If it is a case that we care so much about spending liberty and whether or not these charities can liquidate sorts of currency or other things to be able to spend in their own accords, presumably it is a case that giving them a currency that oftentimes cannot be liquidated, that oftentimes they cannot even hold on to without paying huge amounts of fees, is something that would actually increase the liberty of these charities and allow them to have agency in determining how they want to spend that currency when they can't even liquidate it. I'll take the POI.
Some kid donating to a qaida isn't a charitable donation.
Sorry, I could not hear that at all, but Okay, I'll just like try to address whatever that was, I hope, in my next lines of argumentation. So they say the more donations have been given as a result of crypto occurring, and crypto encourages more people to donate because it's exciting, people see their idols, etc. So I think we have three main lines of refutation here. First, as to why people will still donate under our side. And the reasons why we gave you were quite simple. Your purposes for donation have not fundamentally changed, and performing the transaction in other currency is generally not a major inconvenience to the vast majority of donors. But oftentimes you'll still try to donate because of your own guilt, the fact that you feel as though you must donate to avoid complicity and other people's suffering. But moreover, most people hold both cash and crypto. There's no reason why we hear from opposition as to why they would not be able to simply donate through another currency if charities do not accept cryptocurrency. Moreover, they likely have institutional connections, such as Bill Gates and like the Bill Gates Foundation. Therefore, they're still likely towards themselves. But the final thing to note is that they're far more likely to pursue real sponsors, as in charities are likely to pursue real sponsors rather than simply accepting large amounts of cryptocurrency. But when this is no longer a viable way of supporting your charity and buying everything that you need to keep your charity afloat, presumably you're far more likely to pursue real sponsors who can provide you that same amount of money within traditional currencies. Second, the claim on like people seeing idols donating all the time just does not make sense. People oftentimes do see idols donating, like Bill Gates. They aren't pushed to donate in the same way. If anything, they feel complacent because they know that they're part of a great project that generally contributes towards global good, and as a result, they're generally not as inclined to feel guilt and as if they have to donate towards these causes. The third thing to note is that maybe a select number of crypto entrepreneurs choose to donate, but that's limited to the very few charities that they like. So this oftentimes creates huge booms in funding for select programs while others are underfunded, if it is the case that this is generally about the certain crypto entrepreneurs. But I would note that all the charities that are left behind, the ones that do not accept cryptocurrency right now, are also pushed to accept it, even though it's a highly volatile currency, and otherwise individuals would have donated through traditional means that are far more predictable. That means on our side, charities are able to invest in long-term projects. They're able to have assurance they can provide need during times of crisis that is not risked by the fluctuations of a cryptocurrency. So on that basis, we're very proud of those.
Thank you for that speech, government. We very apologize I wasn't able to time. But by the way, calling on opposition whip, here.
Can you see and hear me?
Yep.
Okay, give me 1 second to set up my timer. I'll take my POIs verbally, and my pronouns are she, her. Just 1 second to drink water. Okay. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Off the top of my speech, I'll explain why charity donations in this debate don't go to evil people and don't go to paramilitaries. Panel, this debate isn't about paramilitaries. This debate is about charity. Paramilitaries aren't charity. That's why they're complete material and tangent on we support evil people on our side or evil organizations on our side doesn't stand this debate purely from pointing out the definition of this debate. With that being said, even if paramilitaries were about this debate, panel, the substantial rise in donations by people like Elon Musk actually brings more scrutiny, and I'll talk about that more in my speech. With that being said, I think this debate can be measured in 2 main questions. Firstly, which side gets more support? Secondly, what form of support is most effective? There, I'll talk about legitimacy and accountability. First question then, which side gets more support? Which side gets more charity? Few things here to note. First main thing under who gets more support is analyzing incentive structures of people that give money in the first place. We note that with the rise of cryptocurrency donations, we see people like Elon Musk, like Jeff Bezos, like Richard Branson giving donations in cryptocurrencies. What does this mean? This means these billionaires on our side are giving support, giving money. What are their incentive structures and why do they give money? Why do they give support in our side? Because they benefit not just from the social part that our proposition has in this debate. We also have that in our side, but also increased benefit for them to give more support. Why? Because they increase their brand and they increase the hype around their cryptocurrency. And as we noted throughout this debate, I think this is very clear by now that hype in the cryptocurrency industry means everything because that increases the value of your cryptocurrency. What does this mean then in this debate? What's the impact? We have more support. they failed to understand the value of billionaires giving support in our side. Panel, even if cryptocurrencies were the worst form possible, having billionaires supporting your donation, having billionaires supporting your NGO is huge, because then you're able to garner more support, but also understand that cryptocurrency has some value. So with that being said, I think that we have much more support because we get billionaires supporting our NGOs. Panel, then, most of these donors are crypto billionaires. People like Vitalik Buterin, who became rich because they co-founded Ethereum, will never donate on their side. This is their comparative. This is their counterfactual. Panel, they don't see the benefit that we have on our side. That's why they lose their support. That's why they lose this support on their side then. Panel, then they won't give cash. They won't give any of that because they don't see the benefit in that. Therefore, they won't engage in giving support. They lose this panel. They lose this support. So even if we say, yeah, some people might garner some individual support, but I don't think, first of all, the speed of that support is the same as our side, because one transaction of cryptocurrency is much faster than engaging in a fundraiser. With that being said, panel, that is how we have more support on our side, because they lose out on billionaires, not just individuals. But with that being said, we also have individuals. How? And they fail to engage with this properly. And this is lethal and debate-winning for us, lethal for them. What do we tell you? Sarah from LO tells you that investor bros exist. What does this mean? This means, first of all, investor bros are idealize these people as if they're in a cult. I swear to God. Panel, what does this look like? This looks like more like engagement in the cryptocurrency, increased value, but it looks like people engaging in the donation of cryptocurrency to increase their own value of their cryptocurrency. This looks like low-level investors engaging in donations because they want to increase the value of their donations. What does this mean? This means more support. They lose out on this on their side. Okay, then. Second question in this debate then, who has the best form and / most effective form of giving support? A few things here to note. First, let's talk about accountability, because I think this is really important in this debate. But panel, note that without the support that we have on our side, I mean, the effectiveness isn't really in this debate, because without the money, without the support, without the actual resources, you aren't able to prove the effectiveness of your support. With that being said, accountability. We hear a few things from Sarah and from Moza. So what do they tell you? They tell you that we have more accountability. Why? Because firstly, blockchain exists. People can see where you donate to and who you donate to. With that being said, I think that having that blockchain, which is accessible by everyone, having all eyes on you due to the rise of the cryptocurrency donation, that trend, people will scrutinize you more. But what does this mean? Even more than that. Panel, this means things like regulations being applicable in our world, because note the rise exists in our world. What does this mean then? This means that there will be more regulations on our side. Not compare this panel, a comparative here. On their side, yeah, they might have regulations, but not then the countries that receive these regulations, what do they look like? They look like corrupt governments. They look like undemocratic governments. They look like, at best, unstable governments, because at the base, like fundamental fact and simple fact that they need donations to survive. What does this mean then? This means on their world, they're like the people that engage in donations then will actually be more corrupt because they don't have a proper mechanisms of accountability. Therefore, their mechanism of regulation doesn't stand in this debate then. Secondly, then, under accountability panel. Note then, panel, a contradiction in their characterization of philanthropists. Panel, they tell us that in our world, suddenly these philanthropists will support terrorists. Few things wrong with this, but let's note their contradiction first. Then they tell us, actually, these people in our world won't go to offshore bank accounts, and they won't do that because they're well-intentioned. I think this is very, very ironic to hear from side Canada, but let's engage with the first part of that contradiction. They tell us they support terrorists on our side. Panel, note that they tell us they engage in cryptocurrency donations in the beginning, and they can see to this, by the way. They tell us they do it for PR reasons. Panel, I don't think that billionaire will now risk their PR and having spent all that money with cryptocurrencies, having spent all that time and effort, now they will risk that PR because they support terrorist groups. But beyond that, panel, note their contradiction. I think it's much, much easier to go to offshore accounts, to give cash and not really give it properly, to deflect accountability in that sense in their world compared to our world. So even if we have deflection of accountability on our side, it's not as bad as theirs. With that being said, before I move on, I'll take a PY.
very nature of the blockchain is decentralized. You can never know my wallet address. I can tell you a different one.
Sure,
There's no
sure.
accountability on my side.
I'll engage with that decentralization. And the second part then on legitimacy and how cash is actually much worse on their side. Panel, note their limited engagement with our example of Lebanon. This is lethal in their side. Why? Because panel, note if a bank is suddenly bombed in Russia due to the invasion, or like in Ukraine due to the invasion, they lose out on that money. Those transactions are now gone. They're wiped. At least on our side, because they're virtual, you have them recorded forever. They lose out on that on their side. Therefore, I can simply go bomb, like if I'm that evil, according to their characterization, I can simply go bomb a bank to hide that at like worst case scenario. But at best, panel, let's like be generous and engage with that characterization then. What does this mean on their side, panel? Panel, I think it's much, and we get this engagement from Moza, by the way. She tells you that like the transfer fees that exist in their world are much, much worse. What does this mean on their side? Even if we say decentralization is bad, what does this mean on effectiveness? Transfer fees are really, really critical in their world. You know why? Because in their world, they have to transfer money more and more and more. On our side of the house, panel, we don't have that. Yeah, gas fees might be a one-time, gas fees might be a little bit high, and they over-exaggerate that, but it's a one-time thing. That's critical in this debate. Panel, the thing is, the difference between prop and up in this debate is we give prosperity, not just people to survive. That is why we win this debate, because we fully engage on their forefront. I think we have accountability and effectiveness. That's why crypto donation is our salvation.
Thank you for that speech, opposition group. May we invite now opposition reply. Here.
Am I visible and audible?
Yep.
Okay. In that case, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, 3 things in this reply. Firstly, why evil groups were not a part of this debate. Secondly, on why we get more donations and they get less. And then lastly, on how their donations are less effective in this debate if they get any donations. So firstly, on how those evil groups were not a part of this debate in the first place. And this is extremely important because this is their most major clash and what they chose to present their case their case with. So if we prove it wrong, this means that the majority of their case falls in this debate. We tell you that firstly, extreme right campaign donations are out of this motion because they're like campaign donations, they're not charitable donations. So that is out of this motion. Secondly, we tell you that like if you want to fund terrorist groups or whatever, as we explained in our POI, a kid like giving a donation to Al-Qaeda is not like part of this motion because that is not a charitable donation. But even if you think that that is a charitable donation, we tell you that the people that want to actually fund those terrorist groups, they will do it with like they will do it on your world as well, because other channels exist, because shell bank accounts exist, because they can go to a niche country that has like very like lenient laws in finances and banking and do whatever they want to do. They tell us, but individuals don't know about those like back channels, and therefore like they think that they dealt with this response. However, we tell you that individual donations are so small, like an individual donation to a terrorist group won't do anything. The people that are funding them are the really rich and the really influential people, and those really rich and influential people will know about the backdoor channels to get the money to them. So we don't even know why they bring up this like point in this debate, because they clearly lose on it. But even if you believe that they get donations on their side to the like extreme rightists or whoever, we tell you that the substantial rise in donations by people like Elon Musk actually brings more scrutiny to donations and encourages regulation. In their world, those donations goes unchecked. So we deal with their like biggest concern even better than they do on their side of the house. They give us no mechanism on how they actually have accountability on their side of the house for funding those terrorist groups. Now moving to my second point, which is how they get less donations and how we get more. We tell you that we can get a hype that they can't get, because who are hyping those people? They're the tech bros, the crypto bros, the investment bros, those people that hype the crypto billionaires and follow their steps to make crypto even more valuable, and it is valuable by the virtue of it being a trendy thing. On their side of the house, this doesn't happen because those crypto billionaires won't give donations in cash because they want to give legitimacy to their industry, and therefore they won't do it in cash. What is the likely comparative that we brought you from first first, we told you that the comparative is like some niche entrepreneur that no one knows about, donating money to UNICEF or like whatever organization they want to donate to. We think that that is not inherently bad, but on the macro scale, that is really bad because the fans or the supporters don't think that that is actually important, and people don't think that that is actually valuable because it looks stale and it looks overdone, and people don't even trust donations that go through such foundations because there's no accountability measure to see what those donations, what those organizations are actually doing and what they are actually spending. On our side of the house, people trust because they can go online and check where that money is going, and they can question and scrutinize because we simply have the number of people that want to scrutinize and the number of people that are interested. But even if you believe that they get some form of donations, we tell you that people like Bill Gates will still donate on our side of the house. We don't understand why that is exclusive to their side of the house. So at the end of the day, we get more money on our side of the house. We help the people that are in need most. Their only like responses to that was basically to say that that like grassroots gas transactions or fees, and we already dealt with that. They never engaged back to that. We talked to you about how more scrutiny leads to more regulations, and that is the reason that the scams got called out at the end of the day. So for all of those reasons, panel, we're very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thanks for that speech, opposition reply. To finally end the debate, let's now call on government reply. Hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, friends. Let's have a chat about three things. One, who gets these donations? Two, where are there more donations? And three, where are there more effective donations? The first question is who gets these donations? The op argument was that there are benefits to dealing with places with poor exchange rates like Lebanon. We observed two things. Firstly, we told you in second, this was tense with their argument about how people donate equipment. If people donate defibrillators rather than money, then there should be no inflationary effects, so they wash their own argument. But secondly, we told you, you still have to convert your money to cryptocurrency to actually pay for anything. They were quick to stress in first that this was about donations, not the use of crypto as a currency. And what that suggests is that under their side, in the vast majority of countries, and yes, Lebanon too, you can't pay for goods in crypto. You have to convert it back into your own currency. So in many cases, their inflationary effects will still apply. Our argument was that donations go to poor actors. Their response was that these aren't charitable donations. But obviously, there's still a margin here. There are the difference between legitimate charities and Al-Qaeda on things like highly suspect charities, for example, who have been accused of corruption, who have charitable ends, who siphon off funds, sometimes into inciting violence. Their flippant response is that people find a way to donate anyways. Obviously, it is more difficult because it is harder to access. Not everyone can set up a Swiss bank account. And even if they aren't insanely rich, lots of these people together can make a big difference. We still have a margin in this debate on, for example, in my home country of Canada, the trucker convoy of right-wing people who stormed Ottawa. The central bank froze their funds, but they couldn't stop crypto from getting into their bank accounts. Question number two, where are there more donations? Their argument was that there are brand benefits from crypto donations. Entrepreneurs would not donate without them. The first thing we observed from first, and this got really no response throughout their entire case, was that there is still public pressure for these donations to happen. These people would still donate in conventional currencies under our side of the house to the point at which there are pressures still, as a billionaire, to use your money to do conventionally good things. But the second thing to observe here is that our argument on scams is logically prior to their argument on entrepreneurs donating. What do I mean? If it is true that entrepreneurs just donate to benefit their cryptocurrency and scam people, presumably even if they didn't donate, that would be a good thing because them donating is a harm. The second thing they say under where there are more donations is that the argument is actually about hype that motivates crypto bros to donate. Notably, this is hung on the claim that crypto billionaires are not donating. If they still donate using conventional means, presumably other people will donate as well. But secondly, we observed that people wanted to assuage their guilt in general. Most people don't care about donations exclusively because of cryptocurrency. They care about the fact that people are suffering. They want to feel empathetic about that. That is a reason why they will still donate under our side. So the weighing is this. Given the decrease in donations is minimal, we have more effective donations. Question three, where are there more effective donations? Our argument is many tokens are fraudulent. Their response is you can sell at the beginning off of short-term hype. Notably, it's not that easy to read price movements. Tanush tells you that you can't know if you're holding for too long. That is a reason why you will lose money, even if these people are very smart. But second, we told you that gas fees prevented you from selling immediately because they were often quite expensive. Their response was that transfer fees are expensive as well. But notably, we explained in third that governments like donations, and that suggests that there will be exemptions for these fees only under our side because this is a centralized system. The second thing they say here is on accountability. Notably, this isn't an incentive problem, it's a capacity problem. Even if there are greater incentives to scrutinize these things, we told you in a POI that decentralization made it impossible. The second thing we told you about was on volatility. Their response is cryptocurrency goes up in value over time. But notably, we told you in first, and they still have not responded, that this only occurs in the long term. In order to gain all their benefits on the long-term rise, they have to hold Bitcoin for 10 to 15 years, to the point at which you cannot spend at all. The last thing we told you about was on conditionality. Their response is people will donate equipment and conditionality still exists. Firstly, Tanush proves to you that in the majority of cases, they donate money because they're more proximate. Secondly, what is wrong with medical equipment? We told you in third that that was okay. But lastly, we still have a margin on individuals because those people aren't buying rice to send to charities. They probably donate money and that could be allocated better. At the end of this debate, even if they get more donations, those donations are less effective, they're often counterproductive, and they go to the wrong actors. Very proud to stand on prop.
All right. Thank you everyone for that wonderful debate. Can you guys wait for like about 15 minutes to deliberate? Then we'll go back to the room after that. You may now virtually cross the house. Thank you everyone. Panelists, probably we can go to. Oh wait. Oh, probably we can go to room to prep.
Thank you, Team
Okay.
Canada, for the debate, guys.
Thank you guys so much for the round.
Oh, we're not Team Canada. We're just an independent Team Canada.
Thank you either way.